I left my e-commerce agency that I co-founded and that was making 50K a month at its peak and went into software. I left it because of selling one-off services, the wrong customers, long sales cycles, slim profit margins, the headache of managing 10 plus people, my personal passion, and the eventual death by it through OpenAI. So what did my agency actually do? My agency in the e-commerce space delivered product descriptions to e-commerce stores at scale. We had very competent programmers employed that wrote a code that could actually generate those product descriptions like now ChatGPT can. If you don't have much time right now, I want to give you the answers right away, what I would have done differently to make my agency a success. With the knowledge and programming resources we had and the internal code that we have already written, I would have built a self-service software that our clients can use instead of doing it for them. Yes, you can charge more if you do it for them. However, there's usually no recurring revenue as it's project-based work. Since we already wrote the code, the logical next step would have been to turn that into a software that the clients can use themselves. Of course, in hindsight, you're always smarter, so let's jump into the problems that you should avoid. One-off services. Now, with an agency, you can and should sell recurring packages, or as it's called, a retainer. However, in our niche, it was very common to just deliver the product once, like once a year, because you don't need that often new product descriptions. And that meant there was not a monthly subscriptions towards us that could give us predictable recurring revenue. And that's particularly stressful if you employ 10 plus people in your company, because you don't know if you can meet payroll next month if there's not another project that you will close by then. Now, granted, towards the end, we switched to recurring packages, at least yearly recurring packages. However, working with large e-commerce stores, which was our target group, was a pain in the ass when it comes to payment cycles. They sometimes only pay you after 3 months after you deliver the service. So at this time, you have to see how you can pay your employees until you get the money from them. Which brings me to the next point, the wrong customers. Now, naturally, our service only fitted it to larger e-commerce stores because we delivered this product descriptions at scale. So it wouldn't fit if you only have one product. At first, you might think that's great for revenue. I mean, larger stores pay more. But the reality is you rarely want to go for enterprise clients if you're a small startup. You don't want to go for an Amazon or a Best Buy as a client, because by the time they make a decision, if they even want to work with you, you're probably already out of business. Sales cycles in larger companies take forever, especially if it's like higher price packages that you are selling. We've been in talks and also closed some of the biggest fashion brands that exist out there. However, it took us 18 plus months of talks until we got a deal with them. And if you're just starting out and you want to make money like immediately or like in the next months, that is definitely not how you should start. It is also much easier and more sustainable to sell a product that costs $100 a month to 100 people than selling one product that costs $10,000 to just one customer. Because if the customer decides to no longer work with you, your revenue drops to zero. Now, resulting in hunting larger clients, we come to the problem of long sales cycles. Ideally, as an agency, you can close your client in the first or second call, or they even subscribe right away on your page if they like your offer. But that just works with smaller offers that it's like 1 to maximum 5K monthly retainer. But having meetings over meetings with tens of decision makers from all kinds of departments just absolutely was frustrating to me, and I felt like nothing was progressing. It's like, hey, when do you want to have the meeting? And they're like, oh, we're free in 8 weeks because we all have to sync our schedules, and then this person is on vacation, and you feel just like if you were working inside of this corporation and you didn't become an entrepreneur to be feeling like you're working inside a corporation. Now let's talk about profit. Most agency gurus here on YouTube will tell you about their revenues, but what do they actually make in the end? And scaling an agency mostly means employing more people. And this is the worst type of scaling that you can do. According to Naval, you should first try to scale with code, media, or capital before you scale with humans, because humans are, frankly, very hard to manage. It may sound great to your mom, like, oh, I have 12 team members. Oh, cool, we went out to dinner all together. But the headache of meeting this payroll and being responsible for these people so that they have a great life as well is a headache that keeps you awake at night. Go with freelancers from cheap countries first before you employ local people. We did the mistake by employing people in Germany, a country with one of the highest labor costs when it comes to like social insurance, pension insurance. You have to pay this for the people. So if they get from you, like, let's say 2K net a month, euros, it will cost you about 4K, if not even more, when you consider like tax consultant and whatever. And that just kills you in the beginning of a startup because you just want to keep your cost as minimal as absolutely possible. And the worst is, in Germany, for example, you cannot fire an employee if you employ them full-time. The law says that there is a minimum amount of months that you have to give this employee before you can fire them. And if you're running out of cash in the next month, that is definitely not ideal. Now that leads me to point 4, managing people. Scale first with media, code, or capital before hiring people. In times of AI, you basically already have like an army of robots that used to be humans that you need to employ, but now this can be code or APIs or whatever. All right, next point, my passion. You have to like what you're doing and who you are doing it with in order to build a long-term sustainable business. Otherwise, you will burn out, and someone else who is into what you're doing will outperform you, and will not just outperform you by like 2x, but by 1000x. And frankly, I didn't really like all the people that we were dealing with, all these decision makers from e-commerce stores and these corporations, and it's just a hustle. So I didn't really feel like I was in my element. Also extremely crucial, probably one of the most important things, is your co-founder relationship. This is one of the biggest reasons why startups fail. Choose your founders wisely, because you will spend more time with them than with your girlfriend or mom. Like the entire day you will usually spend with your co-founder for at least the first 2-3 years. It's actually one of the biggest reasons why startups fail, because either the co-founders don't like each other anymore, or they have different views of where the company should go. All right, and to the last point, death by OpenAI/ChatGPT. Now, the last point was an external event, the launch of OpenAI. And I was already playing around with the GPT-3 before OpenAI launched ChatGPT. But this really, in my opinion, made the business of like product descriptions for e-commerce stores much hard. Because from one day to the other, everybody could generate those descriptions basically for free. And it was really hard to argue to e-commerce stores to pay us a retainer of 10K a month to do their descriptions if they can just go there and do it for free. At that point, I 100% wanted to pivot the business, but of course I wasn't the only founder. We were 3 founders, so you have to agree. And it's quite hard if one person wants to go this way, the other wants to go this way, and the other one wants to go that way. So eventually I decided, okay, it's not for me anymore. I luckily stumbled into software at that point, into Ask Genie AI, which is a software as a service I founded and which skyrocketed to 300,000 users because of this AI hype. And yeah, and that was kind of my journey to go from having an agency to a software as a service. And let me tell you, software is a really good business model. If it works, if it has product market fit, if your users like your product, you basically already know what kind of revenue you will make next month, even if you don't do anything. And it's like a really calming feeling to get this recurring revenue. Don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not completely against the agency model. I'm even thinking of doing another agency soon, but it needs to be approached properly. That means a productized service, recurring contracts, automate as much as possible, smaller customers, but many, and above all, it has to suit your interest. Let me know if you also want to know how I've started this SaaS company in less than 48 hours and grew to 300,000 users. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.